Welcome to the Rising Consciousness Show, 20 minutes of soulful insights and powerful tools to elevate your life experience and create with higher clarity, intention, and vision. I'm Tara Antler, intuitive healer and soul coach.
And I'm King Gabriel, spiritual teacher and practitioner. And we are the co-founders of Ascension Academy of Life,
a global center for spiritual growth, intuitive healing, and soul alignment.
Get ready to blast off.
All right, welcome back everybody to the Rising Consciousness Show. I am so grateful and so excited to be here today and to introduce a really beautiful guest who I recently met because we intersected because she's got this incredible series and summit coming up that we're going to tell you a little bit about. And she's new to my world, but she is a powerhouse and I love her message. I love what she's bringing forward. Peggy Pleines. Is that correct?
Yes,
Pleines?
absolutely.
We're talking about the French, le français. So I said, I got to pronounce it in French because as a French, Canadian environment that we live in, I had to pronounce it properly. So Peggy, I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for taking time to be here and to speak to the community.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to be with you, Tara. And it's the second time in a very short period, right? Because we had this fantastic interview on the summit coming up. So yeah, it's a real pleasure. Thank you so much. So I welcome everybody from this part of the world. I'm actually in beautiful Zurich, Switzerland.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so incredible. And tell everybody about the work that you're doing in the world, because I know that you take a stand for authenticity. We're going to talk today about creating new business models, being able to really lead with our heart instead of our head always. As you guys know, there's a lot that's falling in the world. It's a lot that's changing. And so this is the perfect conversation for rising the consciousness, even around business, how we use business, how we're in business, how we show up in business. And we're going to dive deeper into that. But Peggy, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and just let everybody know a little bit about the work that you're doing and what's calling to your heart and your being and your soul right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tara. Yes, I had quite a corporate career. So I did the traditional, let's train to achieve type of thing. So I studied and I did the things as you're supposed to do. I did social sciences and economics. So I'm very much left brain trained. I did all the right things as you would expect for an achiever, right? So I was basically educating myself to become a high achiever. And it included a lot of things. So it included a marriage, which was also based on, marrying the right person, at the right time, etc. And through that evolution, I learned that I lost myself. I always had that feeling that there was a deeper, there was something deeper in me. And I kind of lost who I was, and I actually didn't know who I was. So I started following more my gut feeling. So I basically, one of the first things that happened is I founded my first company 20 years ago. I basically stepped out of corporate life after 10 years and I said, okay, I have to do something new. And I came out of prestige cosmetics and I didn't know what to do, right? I founded a company and now I had this container and I didn't really know what to do. And I ended up going into the dog food business, believe it or not. So I did the first big jump and people started going, oh my God, what's wrong with her, right? So that's kind of when I went back to understanding a bit more about, what it means to follow your own lead, follow your own tune, even though I felt really uncomfortable as my environment obviously was very much, again, left brain focused, right? So, that kind of went through my private life. I had a divorce of a very wonderful man, but basically I married him for the wrong reasons. So I kind of found myself in a situation there too, where I had to say, is that really me? So in short, I have designed a career which has been going through a lot of changes, a lot of good changes. I still have my company, so I'm very happy with that. I help some entrepreneurs to sell or manage their company, so that's also very left brain. And what I could find out working with really incredible leaders of businesses as well is that a lot of the people around me are still very left brain minded, right? And especially the older generation of people, they still think that business must be a very serious thing. But also they start understanding that they bring themselves to the table. And where it's very obvious is when you have very harsh or difficult situations, which are typically negotiations. And that's when I started getting curious, right? So where's the human factor here, and how much is actually psychology and how much is actually skill? And that's kind of what that's now my new way to look at things. I look at things thinking, why are we so left brain trained, and why doesn't anybody, show us how to really do the inner work? Because at the end of the day, I'm convinced that 80% of anything we do is our psychology, our life force we bring to the table, and only 20% is skill. Which then leads to the question, are we really here to achieve, or are we here to be fulfilled? And that's a very big difference.
That is a huge difference. I love that you bring that forward, because I think about this all the time. As you know, we have 3 little ones and we're homeschooling. And there's this really interesting thing, like when you ask the question, when and how did we get to this place of achieving versus fulfilling? And I really think it starts when we're children, because there's so much around testing and grading, and can they read by the age of whatever? Can they do this list of things by the age of whatever? Instead of allowing them to be their full self, trusting in their full self, which will lead to fulfillment. I think about that all the time. Your full self will lead to fulfillment. So I love that you're bringing this forward, because I do believe this is part of the new business model that's getting ready to really birth itself in the world. And I think what we're seeing right now, a lot of the old business models, they're not working. You're seeing people strive and hit a wall, push and hit a wall. And not to say that there's not a place for the masculine. I do believe there's a place for both.
Absolutely.
And I love that you're opening this conversation of the other parts of ourselves. So let's go deeper into that, because you also are an intuitive business coach and strategist, right? So let's talk about how intuition plays into that as well, getting back to maybe the more feminine, or listening to our heart and listening to the fulfillment piece.
Yeah, I think, if you look at the results you create, that's the first way to understand where you're going right or where you're going wrong. So kind of in a way, if I told you my journey was very much left brain, but head directed. And then I started creating results, and then I thought, I didn't want to create that result with my head. So I understood that actually my inner work, or my inside, the thing I bring to the table is maybe not the right, in the right place. So very painfully, I started backtracking and really doing this inner work to really open up again to my intuition. And, some people say, oh, intuition sounds so woo. It is not woo. We all have it. Right? And intuition should not be mixed up with emotion, right? Emotion is something that goes through us and we feel it physically, whereas intuition, you have this little voice in your head, and I'm sure everybody who's attending this will know it, right? Which goes, think about that. Or, does that really feel correct? Or, look at that, right? I had this very, very nice Jewish man once who told me, and he was very deep into Kabbalah, and he said, you know what? Ideas drop in from the universe, and then you can take it and run with it, right? Or you ignore it. But the way you ignore it, it's going to drop into somebody else, and he's going to go and run with it. So, and this is also part of why I started, putting together the summit, which is called The Magic of Opportunity, and how to find it anywhere. Because that's the thing, right? Opportunities are very much directed through your intuition. Of course, you can do data, right? Of course, and maybe, yes, you have to do both. I'm not saying, I'm not all about let's follow only your intuition. And as you said before, there is always space for the masculine. But there needs to be a lot of space for what you bring to the table, who are the people you put together. And especially in businesses where you see a lot of people interacting, right? You can see that really, really, and you can feel it. Does that match? Does that not match? So this is kind of my journey. And this is where I think also my intuition comes in most of the time, looking at how do people play together and how to actually optimize that.
I love that so much, because do you work with teams then as well, and watching team dynamics?
Yeah, team dynamics. And, because typically, and you also, sometimes I'm the bridge between parties, which really don't like they can't work together. And it typically always works after a while because you kind of, direct, and that's an intuitive work. You direct the needs of each one of them and to try to integrate the parts which don't fit. So it's really a question of how do you integrate parts of the people. You know how people come to the table and they go, oh no, this is definitely not how I want it. And the other one goes, oh yeah, definitely. So we're not going to sit at the table. So it's about, finding what are the common denominators and how to get those parts, which are actually not so controversial, in a better harmony.
I have a question for you around that. So when it comes to authenticity and you're bringing different people to the table, whether it be in business or family or wherever, how important is it then for people to be able to feel free to just show up as themselves? And does that matter even in the world of business as well?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't show up authentically, right, what does that do? It means you either you do it because you want to adapt, which means in a business situation, you're going to potentially walk out. If you're the adapter, you're going to walk out being very dissatisfied with yourself, right? Or you show up as the aggressor, and basically your energy is going to destroy the whole negotiation from that, or the whole business communication from that end. So I think authenticity is something really crucial, and it's really good for people to show up authentically, because only then the other side of the table or the team will know who you are, right? And authenticity is not that easy because we all know we wear different masks, right? So the question becomes, what is authenticity? And I think the first thing to authenticity is values. It sounds a bit, but it's really important. I mean, if you understand, if somebody's in the room who has a very high, let's make a very specific example. So you have the sales guy in the room, right? And you have the lawyer in the room of the company. So the sales guy, right? He typically, his values are, as long as I sell and, as long as my customer is happy and, I can tweak the story a bit. Whereas the lawyer would go of the company would go, no, you have to stick, you have to stick to the truth. So you have two values you now have to match, because it's not an either or. They can deal together, but they have to show up and be able to both share their perspectives on their authentic values. And then you can find a common denominator.
Yeah, 100%. I love that, because then, we've said this a lot too in our world, that it doesn't have to be this or that. Exactly. It can become an and, yes. And I think that that's so important in life and business, in all of it. And I have a question for you as well around authenticity. What does it mean for you to stand in your authentic self? What does that feel like? What is that for you?
Oh, that's a very good one, a very personal question. I think to stand in my authentic self means, even if a lot of critics would show up, right? And you can imagine moving my business from a pure business standpoint, very mind or very head directed, to a more intuitive, people directed approach. There are people out there who criticize me. So my authenticity kicks in, where I go, okay, I'm acting with integrity, right? That's one of my values. So, and the integrity is my integrity, right? So do I act with integrity towards myself first, and then I can act with integrity out there. And I follow my intuition, and I do that very, very consistently now. It's bringing me on a very interesting path, I have to tell you, right? So there's, it's not always easy, but then, again, I have to go into myself, and I have to do the inner work. And believe me, also in some business situations I had, especially this year, where you trust people and you come to a point where you kind of go, something's not going well. You really have to stay close to yourself, to not lose yourself within the issues others might have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that trust is such a big topic too when it comes to life, relationships, business, because we want to have trust in the whole thing, in all of it working out, in people, and trusting that if people show up in their authentic self and I show up in my authentic self, that, it's going to work. Somehow it's all going to work. And then there's still things that come, but I also believe that those trigger points, those friction points in life, they are our moments of growth, and so if we can allow ourselves to lean into the friction for a moment, lean into the trigger, that's something I call them the sandpaper moments. They're the things that are being sandpapered out, so that we can all polish and we can all grow, and then we can show up to the table or show up to the world or the relationship or the business or whatever it is, even more refined. So I 100% agree with you.
Absolutely. So I think and it's fine. Conflict is not bad. So that's the thing, right? we're living in a society where sometimes people think conflict is bad. It's not bad. It's exactly those sandpaper moments. It's just about keep the respect towards the other person. That's important.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. I think respect is key. And I think this is where, when you were talking about the inner work, it's so valuable, because when you do that inner work, when you allow yourself to grow, that authenticity comes, you respect and value yourself, which is then easier to respect and value other people that are in this, whatever the dynamic is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's difficult to say, but and maybe, again, it sounds, for some people, it sounds a bit OTT, but at the end of the day, it's love, right? It's love to bring to the table. So it has to be a love for the business you have. It has to be a love for the people who are around you, even if you don't have to love them, but you have to love the fact that you now brought them all to the table and that you're able to have this conversation or this negotiation or this deal coming on. So I think if you welcome things into life like that, you have a much better way to deal with situations authentically.
Yes, I agree with you. And I have one more question, and then I want to talk about the summit. So what happens when people stop loving what they're doing? Let's say in business particularly, right? Like maybe they've been in it for 5 years or 10, or maybe they've had a job for a really long time, or maybe they've had an idea, but they get to this space where they just don't love it. Their heart's not in it anymore. Then what?
It happens a lot, right? Yeah. And as you can imagine, I deal with quite some owners of businesses, because I said before, I'm also doing some mergers and acquisitions. And we have that situation, a lot of people who are either don't have any successors, or they're simply tired, or the wife gets tired of the husband doing the business, or there are multiple. And it's a bit like falling out of love with a person, truly, right? So if you fall out of love with your business, you need to let go one way or another. Either you convert the business into something where you can find joy again, or you basically go, okay, this is no longer a reflection, because a lot of people build their business as a reflection of themselves. Some people also, especially here in Europe, we have this traditional, my grandfather built the business, and I have a friend who's a carpenter, so the father built the business and then he took it over. But it's never, is he really doing it because he loved it? And I think, again, if you're smart and you're well trained, so you can direct a business really well with your strategy, with your goals, all the tools you get, which are, again, very head related, but you're going to come to a certain point where it's not going to work anymore, right? And it's either not going to work in the business or for you. So you're very lucky if you realize it first with yourself, because typically businesses who start having problems, that's the owner reflected in the business. So that's the point, to let go. Look for a management buy-in, or sell your company, and do something your heart calls you to do.
And that's such a great segue into the series, because it's really about people opening up again to opportunities and possibilities. So let's talk a little bit about what people can look forward to in this upcoming series, which I'm really excited to tune into the other speakers as well. And thank you again so much for having me a part of it.
Yeah, you're so welcome. It was such a pleasure to have you. It was really interesting because I put together a summit. It's actually a free summit, so everybody can profit from it. We have, I think, 7 speakers. Sadly, one speaker lost a loved one, so she's not going to take part. So that also happened. So it's interesting how these things happen. We're talking about opportunities, the magic of opportunities, and how to find them anywhere. Basically, I initiated this because I see a lot of heavy hearts in the world, right? You look at the news and it doesn't matter if it's on this side of the world. I was just spending a lot of time on your side of the world. It's very heavy. There's lots of heaviness out there, and it creates massive opportunities. I mean, it sounds really brutal, but we all know those moments. We know those moments where we have gone through in our lives, and then we suddenly find out, wow, like a half a year later, a year later, we go, it's the best thing that could have ever happened to me. So I find the acknowledgement that opportunity can be anywhere really important. And it's a really important reminder to not hang your head and give up on anything, on anybody, on any business, because there are opportunities out there. But you have to show up, right? And here we go again. I mean, if you show up as this wonderful being you are, in this wonderful spirit you're in, you have great opportunities out there. But it's always the life force or your energy or whatever, or your state or your mindset, whatever you want to call it, you bring to the table, which actually is going to help you create the results. And one big part of that is the resilience. Because remember, I mean, you have 3 little kids. I have 1 boy, right? They start walking, they fall, they get up again. Everybody always uses this example, but I wish we would all remember every day when we learn something new or when we experience something new, right? Because at the end of the day, what happens at the moment, we all experience something new. I mean, I have never experienced inflation in my life, right? Now that's new. We're in a winter period. I don't remember the season of winter economically. We are in winter. So people get really unsure. And I have the conviction that there are great opportunities out there. And I have met so many incredible people who create opportunities, who help their clients create opportunities, because all of us need help, right? I need help. I have coaches, I have mentors, I have my clients. It's great. I mean, we help and we support seeing those opportunities. And this is why it's such an honor to make that summit happen.
Oh, I love this. I think it's so timely because I agree with you. I remember one of my aromatherapy teachers from way back, like 25 years ago, she talked to us about when there would be changes, and she always said to us, you stick with what you love, no matter what. Yeah. And you will see highs and lows in the economy. You will see times where people totally get what you're bringing to the table. And other times they have no idea. But if you find your heart in that and stay with it. And one of the things she always said too was, it was always in the depression moments that's where the largest amount of new ideas and businesses came up and out of those times. So I agree with you. I think this is an incredible window of opportunity for people. We just have to not get caught in the fold, not fall with the fold, right? And I love that this series is coming at the time that it is, because I think it's going to inspire so many people. And I feel so many people are going to receive so much goodness from it and inspiration, and just to lift, to create that
lift, right? And you see that in the Corona period as well, right? Look what happened during Corona. Everybody was screaming and shouting, but it created a lot of opportunities for businesses, for people. We all spend more time with our kids. You have your kids homeschooled. I mean, there's always a lot of things coming out of situations which we think are actually terrible. And that's basically the first thing you probably have to, or definitely have to do, is manage your mindset.
That's right. I agree with you. 100%.
So that's
it's kind of like back to the basics all of a sudden again. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Like being in business for as long as you have, and same here. I celebrated 22 years in business last week. And when you're in business that long, you see all these waves and flows. And this is the time where the mindset piece, I'm seeing it everywhere as well, that we have to return to the basics in moments like this.
Definitely. And it's all patterns. And it's about looking at the patterns. So if you look back in history, there have always been these times. And in those times, huge corporations have been founded. They're still there today, right? So we have to be really open to change and not be averse, and try to be really resilient. That's really important.
I agree with you. Resiliency we've been talking about that. It's like, that's where I think the masculine does support in that way.
I agree.
It's the resiliency of our mind, but then the feminine comes in, because I think about childbirthing. That is not for the faint of heart by any means, And so there is a strength within the womanhood that needs to rise as well, So there's this beautiful blend that's happening, and I'm really excited for it.
Yes, me too. So, and I think also opportunities, as they show up, like take action. That's the other thing, right? That's the message here, because as I said before, the opportunity is going to show up, but you're not going to be the only one looking at it. So it's really important that people also act upon it. It's not enough to say, oh, there's masses of opportunities out there, and at the end of the day, you don't do anything with it. So you have to
agree with you. 100%.
Yes.
So good. We're going to post the link for the series and the summit below so that you guys can all go and register for it. It's going to be beautiful and amazing. It's coming up just around the corner. Peggy, is there anything else that you feel called to share before we close out for today?
Oh, I want to share that, Tara, it's been such an honor to do this interview with you, and it was such a pleasure to have you twice in such a short time. So thank you very much. And I send everybody love, light, and ladybugs, as I do.
I love that.
And lots of love. And Tara, I'm looking forward to our next connect. I'm looking forward to a connect with all our audience. So have fun with the summit. And thank you very much for your support.
Oh, thank you so much. I so appreciate you. And I'm so looking forward to continuing this relationship as well. It's such a beautiful, synchronistic, divine connection.
Yes.
However, the whole thing got created.
Exactly.
It's perfect. It's so perfect.
It's going to be perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tara.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll post the link below. Make sure that you go register for it, and we will see you again really soon. Thank you so much for joining us today on another episode of the Rising Consciousness Show. For more high vibration conversations, meditations, energy activations, and tips and tools on creating your most exceptional life, we lovingly invite you to connect with us at academyoflight.ca. The website is www.academyoflight.ca. It is time to create your heaven on earth experience, and we look forward to sharing this beautiful journey with you.
You're listening to Rising Consciousness, yeah.
Woo!
Woo!